G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome everyone. Today I'm interviewing Riley Oickle from Riley Oickle, based in Toronto, Canada. Thanks for your time today, Riley.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. Appreciate you having me on.
Let's start with how we know each other. We've started using a couple of podcast matching services to get guests on, and I think it was through matchmaker.com for podcasts, wasn't it?
That's correct, yeah.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Sure, yeah. There's a few different businesses that we have. The one would be active real estate investing. And we have two different types of categories, I guess, in which we kind of invest in within that overall like real estate investing category. One would be buying multifamily property. So mainly it's 2 to 4 units. So duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes. And then the other kind of category would be short-term rental property. So we do Airbnb. Overall, we use like joint venturing for kind of partnerships, and that allows us to raise more money past what we're able to do ourselves. And then we use another strategy called the BRRRR strategy, which allows us to kind of keep our money moving fluidly. So not to get into the technical stuff too much, but like that's the one business. Then the other business would be consulting. We actually have two different coaching programs. One would be where it's just myself and I actually coach people to buy their first income property. We do around $30K a month there with that program. We help over 100 students a year to buy their first income property. The other coaching program would be essentially helping people to scale a short-term rental portfolio. It's me and a business partner, James Fedek, and we co-own that business. So those are kind of all the different businesses right now that we have going on.
Great. And do you just focus on property in Canada or in the United States as well?
Yeah, only in Canada for now. We have done quite a bit of research and worked with some coaches there to kind of learn the US market a bit more. But as of right now, we're only investing in Canada.
Great. Tell us how you started out.
Yeah, it was kind of a interesting journey. You know, it's like the classic idea of success. Like you don't think everyone thinks it's going to be a straight line and it all makes sense. But looking back, it's just this big squiggly line all over the place. I was a university student, had a bunch of student debt naturally. And, I was working like just an hourly minimum wage job. Definitely was not going to be able to pay off that debt anytime soon. And my worst fear was being like, mid 30s, early 40s, still with that student debt hanging over my head. So I decided to just like really just embrace the grind is what I kind of call it. I started knocking on houses in the community there that I was going to school in. And I would just ask homeowners like, hey, how can I help? Like, what's going on? Can I clean your windows? Can I empty your eavesdrops? Can I do some pressure washing for you? Just whatever I could do to help them out. Actually, like a lot of homeowners resonated with that, and they wanted to have me hired to do some of that home maintenance work. So we actually quickly grew from just myself doing it to like 4 students in the first year. And, I actually made more money that year than I ever had in my entire life. So I thought there was something probably to this. Mm-hmm. And then the next year we actually hit 6 figures and hired on about a dozen students. And then that second year, I'd actually paid off my entire student debt up until that point, and the remaining student debt that I'd have for the rest of my university. So I was like, okay, well, like I'm going to do this for the next couple of years for sure. Did it for another year. Then I actually decided to continue doing it, but a bit more passively. And I learned something about consulting. I was like taking some consulting courses and learning how to be a coach. And I actually ended up starting to train other university students how to do what I had just accomplished, which is running a home maintenance company. So kind of in that 4th year in that season, I actually had about 15 students that I was training to run a similar type business. I was just taking a fee of their business and training them. So that quickly grew into like, okay, now I'm making good money. What am I going to do with this money? I was thinking about running a renewable energy business, but I needed to go to the banks to get a loan from the banks for this hydraulic drill to do a geothermal renewable energy business. They actually wouldn't give me a loan because I only had one asset at the time, which was my literal like $2,000 Chevrolet Equinox. So they laughed me out of the bank.
Yep.
And then I was like, okay, now I'm really fascinated. What are assets? Like that set me on the path of like what I've been doing for the last couple of years, which is really going full immersion into like real estate investing, and realize that the banks don't recognize stocks or bonds as assets. It's only tangible items that you can go and touch, like real estate. Um, and that's what's kind of led me into like buying property, and then realizing that there's probably another, need here around coaching and consulting. And I kind of, I've taken what I've learned back in the student days, when I was coaching other students to run home maintenance companies, and applied it to coaching real estate investors now.
Yeah, great. And what did you end up doing with the home maintenance coaching business? And
Yeah,
then,
it still exists.
yeah.
I've kind of a team in place,
Mhm.
and we're still kind of growing it, not nearly as rapidly as we were kind of like 2-3 years ago, but it still exists. I'm still involved, but I'm more of like the early co-founder now, or
Yep.
founder, than anything else. We have an operator in place, and he runs it all. So
Great, very smart. And it's almost like a franchise model, that, but not quite, because you take a percentage of the business that you help the students start a home maintenance business.
yeah, so it wasn't really a franchise,
Yeah.
because they weren't paying a fee up front
Yeah.
to run the business. It was more of like I had a consulting business, and I would just coach them and then take a fee of their business. That was just an agreement that we had.
Yep. Great. Very, very clever. And how old were you when you started that first business?
19 when we started the first one.
Okay, great. Do you have any key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of, I guess, multiple businesses?
Sure. Yeah. Like, I guess the home maintenance one was 50K in the first year. We did about 40% profit. Second year, we did six figures, and it was actually 50% profit. So it was like 115,000 or so.
Right.
And it's kind of plateaued since then. We've done like 120, 130-ish. That was for the home maintenance company. And then when we started buying property, we bought them pretty quick. Like, we went from 0 to 10 within like the first year and a half. And so we reached over 5 million in kind of a year and a half. Cash flow, and that was around 75,000
Yep.
per month. Or sorry, 75,000 a year in cash flow,
Yep.
which was
So
per
it's
month.
positive cash flow.
Yeah, positive cash flow.
Yep.
And then the consulting businesses, my personal consulting business, where we coach people to do their first income property, we do about 30K a month.
Great.
And I would say about 90% of that would be profit.
Yep.
And then the other short-term rental consulting business that we have, called B&B Inner Circle,
Yep.
we've done $250,000 here in the last kind of 4 months.
Wow. Yeah.
But that's the first 4 months that we've been doing it. And again, that's kind of 95% profit.
Yeah.
So pretty exciting stuff. And I think real estate here is really taken off. So I'm not sure if this is just a short-term thing or if it's going to continue on, but it's been going really well so far.
And with the consulting and coaching, do you leverage like webinars or an online platform, or is it mainly one-on-one?
Sure. Yeah, we have a mixture of two different things that we use in order of like communication and working with these students. The one would be a back-end portal. So they just essentially log on, and they can watch pre-recorded lectures and videos that we put together, and they do exercises there too. And so that works well. So they have about 45 hours over the course of 8 weeks of content to like indulge in and do exercises on. Then alongside that, we have Q&A calls. So on Zoom, we have 2 Q&A calls a week. Those are half an hour to an hour long.
Yeah.
And then alongside that, if they actually need some one-on-one support, then we're also there too. We can certainly have myself or one of our team members jump on a one-on-one call.
Yeah, great. And on that, so how many team members across all the businesses at the moment, from starting just with yourself?
Yeah, the home maintenance company is like 12 students that we fully employ. I guess full-time in the summer, and then part-time kind of in the winter months.
Yeah.
Because it's window cleaning, so we don't really need them in the winter as much. But
so maybe 8 full-time equivalent across the year, weighted average. Yeah.
Yeah, for the home maintenance, around that, I would say.
Yep.
And then for the investment portfolio, we have I think it's four people right now, full-time on that. Or sorry, the portfolio is 12. The consulting businesses would be 4 full-time.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Great. So
I need a spreadsheet to keep all this stuff.
I know.
Straight.
Yeah.
It's craziness.
So about 24 full-time equivalents now. That's amazing.
Yeah, around that.
Yeah. What year did I forgot to ask? What year did you actually start out the home maintenance business?
It would have been 2014.
2014. So in 7 years, you've gone from 1 to 24 full-time equivalents across several businesses. That's phenomenal growth.
Yeah. And I would say the majority of that, again, is like the last kind of year 2 years. Over 75% of that would be in the last 2 years
Yep.
for hire. So it's kind of like a hockey stick curve, right? Like
Yep.
a lot of work at the beginning, and then it just kind of takes off a bit.
Scales. So was it 2019 when you really moved into the property, the consulting and the active investment?
Yeah, I started researching it like a year and a half, 2 years before I actually bought anything. It was like pretty well like 30 hours a week of just indulgence, like through coaches, mentors, reading books, podcasts like this, and just trying to figure out how to do it. And then once we started doing it, it was like 0 to 10 within that first year, year and a half.
So was that 2010, 0 to 10?
Would have been 2019 to 2020.
What a phenomenal time to buy. Obviously, a lot of development.
Not bad at all. Yeah, we lucked out. That was a lot of luck for sure.
That's great. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Yeah, I've been asked this before. I don't know how to ever answer it. I don't know. Like succeed means that we're done, and I don't think that that's. Have I been successful? I think I am successful. Will I be more successful? Yes. And it just continues. That's how it works. Like success for me is health, wealth, and happiness.
Yep.
And it's always a matter of just like every day a bit better, a bit better, a bit better. And so as long as you're doing that, I think that is success. But once you succeeded, then I think we've concluded, and I don't like that idea.
Yeah. Well, that was the next question. What does success look like? But I think you've just answered that.
Yeah.
Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast growing business?
Marketing. Yeah. I think really embrace technology. If you can really embrace technology and have it on your side and not be against it. I know for kind of like earlier generations, it's kind of maybe difficult, but if you can get your own website up and running as like the hub place, like that's like the holy grail where people go to be converted, I guess, into potentially a client. If you can really embrace social media, doing ads on social, getting on podcasts, for the first few years, I did a lot of podcasts to just kind of put my name out there. And if someone can search your name, if you're marketing yourself, like I was at the very beginning, if they can't search your name and have a lot of content on you, then you're not doing a great job at marketing yourself, or if they search your business name and there's nothing there, then you just don't exist. You're not really a business and you're not marketing yourself. So it isn't about, flyers being sent to doors anymore. It isn't about billboards, really, even TV commercials, for God's sake. It's really about like, can they search your name online and do you appear? So embrace that and get yourself out there on the internet.
The content marketing movement, I guess it started 10 or 12 years ago. It's huge. And also that feeds into obviously search engine optimization as well. But more so these days, I think with online marketing, you need to see and read that authenticity coming through and all the messaging before you really trust and move with someone.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's all about like mass amounts of content. The algorithms favor you immensely if you can be posting even once every couple of days on social, on Instagram, on Facebook, on whatever it might be. Even if it's like you have a website and you can post blogs, every week. Like we were doing 3 blog posts every week for like the last year, because Google algorithm favors websites that have over 100 blog posts. Well, that's an obnoxious amount of blog posts.
Yeah.
But if you can do that, then you're competing, right? If you're not, then you're really not competing as well with SEO and the algorithm. So
out of interest,
all about content.
Yeah, out of interest, where do most of your leads come from?
Sure. Yeah. A lot of it comes from social. It comes from Instagram. It comes from Facebook. It comes from, our website, right? Podcasts even. It comes from a lot of that. Also, just like I've been doing this for a little while now, so people know me, and like if they've worked with me and had great experiences, which I hope they have, referrals come around, which is great. Word of mouth means a lot. And I would say, I don't know the exact percentage. I haven't broken it down, but it'd be a mixture of all of those different sources. Great.
How did you fund your businesses?
With my money. Yeah. I've never gotten a loan. I don't have any venture capitalists looking over my shoulder, making sure I'm doing my job. It was just blood, sweat, and tears, I guess is the cliche, but that's how I funded it. Yeah.
Well done. Yeah. If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
That's a really good question. I've never been asked that. If I had plenty of funding, would I go? I don't know. I think, actually, just to retract that last piece, I have done joint ventures. around like buying property, which is one of the ways in which we raise money, I guess, to buy
Yeah.
property.
Yeah.
So if I had like a lot of funding, yes, I would just do more joint ventures.
Yeah.
I am quite selective in who we partner with because it's a business partnership, long-term, 5, 10, 15 years. And you want to make sure that you're partnering with the right person.
Yeah, that's right. How do you weed out the dickheads?
I have a beer test is what I call it.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really, yeah, you need to know, like, and trust them. And it takes time. It isn't just like, oh, someone reached out, they have money, they have a mortgage, let's buy a property. No, you want to like really get to know them. I've gone out to dinner with each person before I work with them, and we have multiple conversations. And so it takes time, like, probably 3 to 5 hours minimum to get to like really know someone and decide whether or not you like them. And that's my beer test. And then the trust pieces, naturally, it just takes time to build that up. But
and it's also good.
I think something I've going for me is I've tended to like just default, like trust people.
Yeah.
By default, I trust them. And then they have to take that trust away slowly.
Yeah.
Versus like, you have to earn my trust. I'm not like that. I just give people that trust immediately.
Yeah, it's important. The more time, same with recruitment, which we'll talk about in a minute, but the more time you spend with a person, the more your gut more information your gut has to make that decision for you to say whether you trust this person or not. I think 3 to 5 hours for a business partner, JV partner, is really good. And also in a social setting as well, you can observe how they treat other people. It can be really powerful.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. I think, my favorite joint venture partners are people I've already known for years, and I've been in the social circle with them. And it's really allowed me to like go from 0 to 100 real quick. And we don't really have to do that whole like onboarding phase of like multiple meetings or whatever. And all that formality is out the window. Like, we already know each other. Let's do this.
Yeah.
So those tend to be my strongest relationships. But naturally, like, there are strangers that reach out and they have great potential. And so we go through that process, right? It's just a bit different.
Yeah, that's good. I like the beer test. I remember reading about a CEO of a Fortune 500 company in the US, I think, finance and money somehow. And his final test for senior executives, he'd be down to the last 2 or 3, and he'd individually take each one of them out to this crappy diner around the corner. He knew the manager or the owner, and they knew every time that they had to fuck up the order of the person being interviewed, because the CEO wanted to see how they reacted to, lower valued wait staff that some people might perceive to be beneath them. And he was able to whittle out a lot of people, just catching them off guard when the guard was down in that social setting. Told him a lot about those people.
Yeah, that's an interesting test. I think you can do that. I think I don't know. I've never tested employees before like that, but there's something to it. It could work for some people. Yeah.
Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
Yeah, I think for me it was the point where we really started to take off was when I just like cut out all of the distractions. And it was a slow thing. It's like, I don't know if I can ever pinpoint like one exact time, but it was when I really focused on exactly what I was doing. And like, I cut out all of the social interactions, everything that I could. Like, I was almost like, I really programmed my mind. I started doing affirmations in the morning, and I was following the exact same routine. And I actually hired on a VA that was like working with me 40 hours a week. So filling in the gaps. And so they were 7 hours ahead of me. So in the morning, it was like 8 a.m. for me when we started work. She already gotten done like 6 hours of work that day. So we already felt super productive. Like, it was like those little changes, cutting out the distractions, doing the affirmations, getting in that VA, and just being really optimized, that things just started to really take off. Because I had done a little bit of that beforehand. I was probably like 70% focused a lot of the time. But like, we really got like dialed in. To the point where I hired cleaners. I didn't want to clean my home.
Very smart.
I was not cooking food. Like, I stopped cooking food. I didn't go grocery shopping. I got pre-made meals. So I made all these investments into really becoming optimized. That, like at the beginning, it was really scary, and it lit a fire under my ass because I was spending more money than I ever had before on this sort of thing. But that was a really healthy thing. Right? Was it stressful? Was it really like a pressurized situation where I was tense? Yes. But pressure makes diamonds, a lot of the time, if you can do it correctly. So
absolutely. What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Yeah, I think bookkeeping and administration has been a pain in the butt. As the businesses grow, it's like growing pains have happened. So recently, I've actually just brought on a brand new bookkeeping and accounting firm that is taking on everything for all the businesses
Right.
because they just have really great systems that
Hmm.
like softwares and stuff that do a lot of this through AI, and it's fantastic. It works really, really well. Beforehand, it was me like dragging and dropping receipts into folders and having a bookkeeper do it and screw it up, and then I had
Yeah.
to go back over it. It was just a mess. It's one of those things that I don't think any business owner or entrepreneur really enjoys doing, is that admin, that bookkeeping stuff.
No.
But it's so important, right?
Yeah.
Here in Canada, the CRA will come after you naturally if you're not on the ball. So
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
um, that's a really good question too. I think what I've enjoyed the least would be, um, yeah, at times I feel like, man, it feels like we're in an airplane that's already taken off in mid-flight, and we're trying to assemble this airplane while it's in midair, and we're trying to like put it together before it lands. So I think the challenge here, where we're growing fast, is trying to make sure that we can land and not die, in the making. It's tough. The pressure's on. We have to make sure that this thing grows, and it's one thing to just be successful in 1 year, in 2 years, and to hit the numbers that you're looking for. It's another to be consistent, and I think that's something that is challenging for me.
Yeah.
Is looking at this as like a marathon, not just a sprint. How do we sustain this for 5, 10, 15, 20 plus years? And it's this world's ever changing, especially in the business world. Like, we are having to innovate, having to adapt every day. And some days I wish it wasn't like that, and I wish I could just run a business, set it up, and then it's good. But it's not ever going to be that way, I don't believe. So that's something that can be a little frustrating sometimes and challenging, but we work through it.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
Yeah, it's very intimate. Like, you really get to be close with every single member of your team. I know each of them super personally. I know exactly what their goals are. We're working together to achieve it. I find when you have like hundreds, if not thousands of employees, I can only imagine how disengaged you kind of feel from your entire company. Of course, you can have like company events and whatever, but I think that's the advantage there of the small enterprises versus the medium or the large, is we can really get to know the people that we're working with.
What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Yeah, I read a book called The Art of Not Giving a Fuck, and it's been fantastic. Yeah, it's been fantastic to like just not really caring.
Yeah.
Of course I care about the people in the business and our clients and the business itself, the systems, but I really just, I'm doing my own thing.
Yeah.
And I'm very content with like us just doing our own thing, and not worrying about what other people think. So I think that was a big mindset shift that we needed to look at, compared to like comparing ourselves. And I think when you get into that comparison game, it can be very downward spiral quickly, and it's unhealthy. It can be at least unhealthy.
Absolutely. Comparing yourself to the Joneses. And ironically, I had a business partner whose last name was Jones.
Yeah.
What's the number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Yeah, I think the number one habit would be staying consistent. Again, I think just going back to that consistency piece. It isn't about just like waking up. It isn't about just like having a really good day or about having a really good week. And like, following your exact regimen schedule every single day or every single week. I think the habit is like making sure that the way in which you implement new habits is isn't overwhelming.
Yep.
Isn't like you just go cold turkey, I guess. It's like the habit of like slowly adding in these extra little habits every single day. That is the habit, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I've got a quote here on my desk. I've read it out a couple of times, read it out again, from Benjamin Disraeli, who was a British Prime Minister many years ago. The secret of success is constancy of purpose.
Yeah, I think that there's a ton of truth in that. Yeah.
Simple, but powerful.
Yeah.
Jump over to growasmallbusiness.com and leave your details to get a short 2-minute email I send on Fridays to help small business owners like you become better leaders. I include some reading or professional development resources I've discovered in the last week.
Can you talk about how you've had people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
it definitely a slow hiring process. Like I'm not, we're looking to hire on someone right now that can be a VA portfolio manager. And through that process, like I'm going very slow. I'm not worried about like, we need someone right now. We need someone yesterday. Sure that there might be some value in that. Like it might be true a bit, but truthfully, like we just need to go slow.
Yeah.
And I want to make sure, number one, like that beer test, it, works for the people that are my employees that I work with.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I know, like, and trust them. That's very important, that we share similar values. And that we have similar goals. Like everything needs to be in alignment. Like, if one of their goals is not like being curious and learning, we're not going to get along. I love like giving, new programs to people, or like, go read this book or go do this, even if we're the ones paying for it for them.
Yep.
If they're not looking to learn things and be curious, then that's just not going to work.
No, that's good, man.
That's kind of what our onboarding process is like and who we work for.
It's also important as a manager to develop your team on several levels. Obviously, they're going to get better and more efficient, more productive, but also pay is often the fifth reason in a lot of HR surveys as to why someone works somewhere. Things above that are, alignment to purpose and mission, but also feeling that your manager is looking after you, your development, and that professional development is a key part of that. Yeah,
absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
What are some things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Yeah, the culture is something I'm actually quite challenged with. I'm probably not the best person to ask this on right now because the entire team is remote. Difficult to keep that culture going, everyone's working, like we don't have an office. Everyone doesn't come into the office every day. So difficult to have a culture because the culture really usually does exist within that environment that you've created. And it isn't like I do weekly calls and monthly calls with everyone. So there's a big area of improvement there for me, for sure.
Yeah. Tell our audience how you'd handle balance.
Yeah. Balance, like in terms of like life balance, life versus work. So yeah.
However you want to answer it.
Okay. Yeah. I think balance is important, like in every area of life. Like if we can't stay balanced, then we're kind of out of homeostasis in a way, right? So you want to make sure that your work and life balance works. I kind of look at them interchangeably. My work is my life is my work. Like I really, really enjoy what I do day to day. I don't know. Yeah, like I kind of look at the idea of balance too, is like you kind of have this whole wheel. Like you think of like a bicycle wheel, and it has spokes on it. And each of these spokes are like a different area of your life. Like one is maybe your financial literacy or your wealth creation. Another could be like your health. Another could be your happiness, time with friends, family, whatever. And if all these spokes are kind of like in balance and equal in length, then if one's broken or one's short, that wheel is not going to turn nearly as well. Like you're going to have this little dent in your wheel. It's not going to spin nearly as well as it could have otherwise. So yeah, I want to make sure that all those work well, because genuinely speaking, like for the last 3 to 5 years, it's been like going all in on work, on business, and very little on the other areas of life. And I can see here in the past year, especially, how that's affected me negatively. So it's just a matter of paying attention to all of them, because otherwise nothing's going to work well. They're all equally as important.
That's right. It's good that you've got awareness around it, because then that means you'll change something. Never heard it described that way with the wheel. That's good. I like it. How much professional development have you invested in yourself over the years?
Yeah, a lot. Probably close to 150,000 by now. Between different courses, programs, coaches, one-on-one coaches. I guess books would be classified as that as well. So a good amount.
Good. Yeah, sounds like you've built the habit then, continual professional development.
Yeah, I haven't done much in the last year. It's just been like, again, just really focused on growing these guys. But I think it's important that things go in phases too. Like there was a good phase of like just focused on reading and listening to podcasts and YouTube videos. And then it's like you kind of practice for a long time and then you go play, kind of look at it that way. So I think the practice is way more important actually a lot of the time than the play. If you practice like you're going to play, then the play just becomes an unconscious thing that you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you mentioned you've had coaches. Have you had mentors as well along the way?
Yeah. Quite a few. Yeah, I'd say three really powerful mentors and quite a few coaches. Yeah, half a dozen coaches at least.
Great. Yeah. Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
I don't. No.
All right, Riley, we're on to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
Not giving up.
Not giving up.
Not giving up. Yeah. Just the perseverance piece.
Yeah.
It's the resilience piece. It can be lonely, especially when you're the only person in a small business.
Yes.
It's lonely.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship is lonely, and there's not enough awareness about that, I think, in the community. And it's difficult to be okay with that, So yeah, those are the challenges.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Yeah, A 4 Hour Work Week.
Tim Ferriss.
For sure.
That was a great book.
Yeah, Tim Ferriss, 4 Hour Work Week. Yeah, especially now, like, because for a long time it was 80 to 100 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then you get to that point and you're like, well, there's more here. Like, why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then I think that book brought in a lot of awareness. It kind of got me grounded again into like, no, this is the way of the new rich. We want to work less hours and keep our income relatively high. But it isn't just about your top line. It's also about, or your bottom line, how much profit you're making. It's also about how much are you inputting, how much are you putting into the business. So I think a lot of people forget about that.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
Some learning tools. I do like TEDx talks, on YouTube, on podcasts. It's like good, just overall knowledge. Like it's bits and pieces, and it's like the perfect junk size for my attention span, like 15 to 20 minutes.
Yep.
So yeah, I really do enjoy those.
One tool you'd recommend to help grow a small business?
Yeah, going back to, I think something that we spoke about here earlier, being like putting yourself out there for marketing. A tool would be like different softwares, like Zapier. If you're like into softwares, like Zapier is a great integration tool to automate things, like using Google Calendar for sure. I live out of my Google Calendar. And actually, if there was one software or one kind of tool, it would be like having a really good digital calendar that you have not just on your desktop, but on your phone.
Absolutely.
And you just live out of it. Like that's been easily the best habit I've ever had in my life. It's just staying scheduled, put it in there, and you never finish your day until every single thing on that day list, I guess, is completed. Yeah.
Final and my favorite question, what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out?
Yeah, I know, eh? Looking back at 19, relax. I think I'd tell myself to relax. Yeah. It'll come in due time. And don't be so negative, don't be a pessimist.
Yep.
Be happy, enjoy life, smell the roses too. Take a few moments here and there. So
yep. Great. Fantastic. Thanks, Riley. I think the audience get a lot of value out of what you shared with us today. Terrific journey. Congratulations on the success to date. 1 to now 24 full-time equivalents after 7 years, multiple businesses, and sounds like you're loving what you're doing, and look forward to seeing what you get up to in the future.
Yeah, thanks, Troy. Really enjoyed the questions here and the podcast.
And for our audience, we would greatly appreciate a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. More reviews means we bubble up higher in iTunes, etc. So more business owners looking for podcast help with their growth will find us.